So service catalog management activities include ensuring that all operational services and all services being prepared for operations are recorded within the service catalog, which is the primary output of service catalog management. It also ensures that all the information within the service catalog is accurate and up to date, consistent with the portfolio, and adequately protected and backed up. Any questions about service catalog management?
Nope.
Okay. Moving into availability management. Availability management is ensuring it is up when it should be. So availability management is all about ensuring that the thing that you need is available when you need it. So it's planning for today. It's planning for right now. The scope of availability management is to design, implement, measure, manage, and improve IT service and component availability. It's only concerned with availability management. Goals: to ensure that levels of service availability delivered in all services is matched to or exceeds. So we want to make sure that we are meeting all of our targets for availability, meeting or exceeding them. And that the current and future agreed upon needs of the business and the costs are done so in a cost-effective manner. Objectives of availability management: produce and maintain availability plan. So your major output from availability management will be your availability plan, which reflects the current and future needs. Provide advice and guidance on all availability related issues. Ensure availability achievements meet agreed targets. We talked about that. Assist with the diagnosis and resolution of availability related incidents and problems. We'll talk a lot about incident management. However, when incident management identifies that the root cause or the issue was caused by lack of availability, they will send that information back to whoever's responsible for availability management, typically your availability management process owner, to say, hey, this service was not available, or this tool was not available as we outlined in our SLA. And so that process owner would assist with the diagnosis and resolution of availability related incidents and problems. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Owns a knowledge repository called Amos, which is the Availability Management Information System, and ensure proactive and cost-effective measures to improve the availability.
Is Amos something that, is that something that each organization is responsible for setting up?
Yes. So it's not, so they coined the term Amos, but it can look many different ways in different organizations. So at a service desk, it's going to look one way. If you are providing an actual service, it's going to look completely different because you may not have as many dashboard objects and things like that. But it's just a knowledge repository that holds information on the availability of your service. So it could be a collection of reports over various months or years.
Got it. Okay.
Key concepts: availability, reliability, maintainability, serviceability, vital business functions that we'll talk about, high availability, and fault tolerance, which is resiliency. So what is availability? Availability of a configuration item or IT service to perform its agreed upon function when required. So once again, when we need something, it's available the moment that we need it. So for instance, Sprintzeal has a learning management system. They have a URL. I put the URL in my browser, push enter, the page pops up and it says there's an error, a 404 error, or you cannot access this content. So automatically, there's an availability issue. The fact that the website was working 3 minutes ago is of no use to me. The fact that it's going to be up in 5 minutes is of no use to me because when I needed it to be available, it was not available. Note, determined by reliability, resilience, maintainability, serviceability, performance, and security. Availability is usually calculated as a percentage. This calculation is often based on agreed upon service times and downtimes. So availability equals agreed service time minus downtime times 100 over your agreed service time. So that's how you measure your availability.
So that's in the times 1,000 is to get a percentage, right?
Yes, correct. Yes. So availability is usually calculated in some form of percentage. So their website, they said that their website, Sprintzeal said that their website was available 98% of the time. And so the time that I logged in and it was not available, I would call and say, hey, your website is down. And so what their system should be able to do prior to me even calling is identify at what point did the website go down and then track that time until the moment it comes back up. That time would be the quote unquote downtime. And so based on that, they could calculate their availability for their system. And over time, they could do that.
Got it.
Okay, good practice to calculate availability using measurements of the business output of the IT service. Okay. Key concepts. Reliability. A measure of how long a configuration item or IT service can perform its agreed function without interruption. Usually measured as mean time between failures. So it's MTBF or MTBSI. I haven't really seen that acronym used too much.
Is it service interruption?
Service interruption, yes. The term reliability can also be used to state how likely it is that a process or function will deliver its required outputs. So it's a key concept of availability.
Got it.
So in my example with Sprintzeal's website, their reliability usually measure mean time between failures. So I logged on, the system was down for 7 minutes. You log on later today, it was down for 3 minutes. So they're going to calculate the reliability, which is the mean time in between failures, the time in between I logged on and it failed and you logged on and it failed, and any other occurrence of failure. So that's how they're going to calculate how reliable their system is or service is. Serviceability is the ability of a third-party supplier to meet the terms of their contract. This contract will include levels of reliability, maintainability, availability for a configuration item. So overall service availability is the availability of your third-party supplier to meet the terms of their contract. Maintainability is a measure of how quickly and effectively a configuration item or IT service can be restored to normal working after a failure. Maintainability is often measured and reported as MTRS. mean time to restore service. So some of the key concepts. Vital business function. So vital business function is a term that's used to reflect the business critical elements of the business process supported by an IT service. So for example, vital business function of an automated teller machine or ATM is to dispense cash, right? So that's a vital business function. While it's not necessarily a critical business element for an ATM to do that, it's a vital business function. What's the point of having an ATM if it can't dispense cash? And I've seen that before. You go to the ATM and it says no cash available. Well, what's the point? That's a vital business function. That's the whole point of it. Now, you may be able to give me my account balance, but the whole point of an ATM is to perform some type of transaction, which I'm either depositing cash or getting cash. So that's an example of a...
Would this also be like a support email address where somebody writes in, it collects the email and it presents it to the support team between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.? It'll take the question and it'll get it to them, and it makes it so the customer can always submit inquiries.
That could be if you have if that's how the service is designed. So if one of the key elements of your service is being able to take and process customer feedback, then yes.
Got it. Okay.
Otherwise, that could just be a supporting service where we're actually closed, but we want to provide some level of support depending on what your inquiry is. So we're going to have an after-hour support desk, and that's just a supporting service.
Got it. But if one of the selling points of our business is that if you'll
always be able to reach us, yes.
Yes.
Then absolutely.
Got it. Perfect.
Okay. High availability is minimizing the impact of component failure, obviously. So when companies talk about, oh, we are highly available, our system has high availability, etc., that just means they minimize the impact of component failure. Now, how they do that behind the scenes, they could have redundancy built in. They can use more than one system. They're probably measuring capacity so that if a service component is on its last leg, it'll, switch it out, and while it's being worked on and doing maintenance behind the scenes, that type of thing. Fault tolerance. Fault tolerance is the ability of an IT service or configuration item to continue to operate correctly after failure of a component part. Let's see. In Amos, we talked about virtual repository of availability management data, usually stored in multiple physical locations. It could be stored in multiple physical locations, just as a backup. So if one system fails, then you'll always have that availability information, readily available. So those are some of the key concepts of availability management. And here they are right here. We talked about a couple of these. So I log on to Sprintzeal, and their website stops. I log on here. I'm unable to access the website, and it's down for a period of time. I call in, I say, hey, your website is down. They say, okay, please bear with us. We're going to bring it back up as soon as possible. I say, okay. I wait 7 minutes, keep hitting refresh. The moment that service is restored, it starts the uptime. You call later in this evening because the service is down again, and another incident strikes, and we'll talk about what an incident is. An incident strikes, and the system is down again. The moment that system comes back up, that service comes back up and that service is available, the system comes up, the service is available, then the start of uptime begins where we're calculating the availability. So the downtime is the time to restore. That's the time between incidents. That's the time between when an incident happened and the system is restored. That's called time to restore or mean time to restore, MTRS. During this time, the technical team is detecting, diagnosing, repairing, recovering, and trying to restore the service. So behind the scenes, people are working to restore the service while I'm just simply hitting refresh, refresh, refresh. When is this website going to be at? Refresh, refresh, refresh. MTBSI, time between or mean time between system incidents or service interruption, will be from the time I called to the time you called. That is the mean time between service incidents or system interruptions.
Got it.
So this is what an availability measurement metric chart would look like. So someone would say, well, you know, how do we know to calculate, how can we calculate availability? And there's a couple ways to do that. You can calculate downtime. You can calculate the actual availability, which we saw the calculation for that. We can calculate the time in between incidents or service interruptions, time between failures. So there's a number of ways we can calculate the availability of a service.